Got a rough idea how I want to do this Lazy Susan. I think I want to put a recess into the top part to put the ball bearing assembly into, and a pedestal on the bottom part. The reason for doing that is to put the ball bearings above the plane of breadcrumbs. My plans go out the window as soon as the gouge touches the wood. The end product looked nothing like this design. Disadvantage of that is it increases the thickness that this must be to hold the screws that screw this on. So anyway, that's the plan. This is the top. It will have a recess, 8.5 inches. The 6-inch jaws will expand to 8.5, I believe, but I'm going to check that first. There we are, 7 3/8. I'll make a 7-inch recess and chisel out the corners by hand. For the 9,000 roll, 600 is about max on this, but it seems to be happy at 8. I'll run it at 8. For the past couple of years, I've been calling this wood coastal redwood, Oregon coastal redwood, but my plant identifier app says it's Lawson's cypress, also known as Oregon cedar, Port Orford cedar, Lawson cedar, Lawson's false cypress, and ginger pine. So what it is, it's wood. This is a 10-inch bed extension. I ordered a 20-inch, and I will be glad when it gets here. I moved the lathe back to its usual place for sanding to get it closer to the dust extractor. One little bit of tear out remaining. Shellac and sanding will take care of that, I think. Now it's time for Axe abrasive paste and polish before I turn this around and go to the inside. All that needs to be done really is this edge, because everything else will be hidden forever. But I'll probably do A little bit of the underside anyway. Alright, turn the camera back on. Both squared away here. Working on the inside. 5/8 bowl gouge. 600 RPM. Two knots in the bottom of the platter cause that hammering sound. Almost there. Takes these large pieces a lot longer to slow down than I'm used to. There were several more cycles of leveling, measuring, before I was finally satisfied. Vacuum that out, see what it looks like. Well, it looks like a crack. And we've got a rough spot here. Okay, I'm going to put on blast my sanding sealer. Don't think it'll go far enough, and if it doesn't, you show up. Wow, I might have more than I need. Okay, that's it for today. Got 2 coats of sanding sealer in there, sanded. Use coffee grounds and black CA. Fill this gap here. Time now for axe abrasive paste. I think on this soft redwood, axe is probably not the best way to go. I think urethane would have been better. But this is a prototype. Won't be for sale. So we'll figure out the correct way to do things on this one and then make some more. I applied Axe abrasive paste and polishing wax and then measured in from the outer rim to get the hardware exactly centered. 61, 61, 64, 64. Go this way, 1.5 millimeters. 61.5, 64, 62, 64. Well, that went on for a while till I got it right, and then realized the small holes in the hardware lined up perfectly on the rim of the recess. I didn't have to measure anything. Oh, these little holes line up on the rim. Perfect. These corners come out. I used an electric carving tool to chisel out the corners. My head is in the way for the entire sequence, so we'll skip it. Well, that's done. It is 92 millimeters from the flats to the edge all around on the first try. These get screwed in last, as I will drill a hole up through the bottom even with these. Turning the base the next day was much easier than turning the top. The only part of it that shows is the edge. 810. The diameters matched, so it was time to move on. I cut a tenon so I could turn this around. This will come off, this will not. This will sit in here just about like that. And then this I've got no clearance here. The top plate sits on the base, not above it. I'll take this down here. The scraper is tilted to about 45 degrees. That'll do it. A10. This is going to be damn thin. The base is getting really thin. I'll have to support it with my left hand. This is the bottom, so if it's concave in the middle, that's good. Sanding time. I really don't know how much time I want to spend on this. It's already out around. It's going to have 3 thick felt feet on it. Tripod to hold it level. This prototype, such as it is, there's this, which is maybe not too high. It's not too high. I can leave it. Best news I've had all day. What I'm going to do is I'm going to plane it down just a little bit. Make sure this is not standing too high. Have to share space with my Robert Boyce hummingbird house here. These are going to have to be small screws. If these come out the other side, I'll just have to grind them off. Look at these, 4 screws poking through. Well, that's something to keep in mind for next time. I applied wipe-on poly to the base. Although this part doesn't show, I thought it'd be good to have some protection for the wood. A lot of things wrong with this. One of the things I consider wrong with it is it's too bulky. It doesn't look graceful at all. And part of that is this bottom being the same diameter as the top. What I'm going to try to do is bring this in an inch, and then I would also like to put a recess in here big enough to accommodate all of this, so I can get the rim of this down near the table. But the very first thing to do is cut this down by just about this much. Maybe just take that off with the parting tool. It has potential to get ugly. Now all I have to do, some sort of finish on that. Doesn't matter what. Water-based urethane dries quickly. So I do have an improvement. It would sit on the table like this. These feet I need to move inboard. Rim is pretty high. It doesn't need to be that high. What I would like to do is take this down farther. So it'd be nice to bring this down 3/4. That would mean going into here 3/4 more. Can't go down 3/4, you'd go down 1/2 though. Question is, how am I going to do that? I've got no way really other than putting a worm screw hole right smack in the middle of this and filling it later. Could put the worm screw in from this side only 1/2 inch and work at it from this side. Because this wood is soft, I'm going in with 9/32 instead of 5/16. I used masonite spacers to shorten the screw. Now the question is that enough to hold it? There's no such thing as tailstock support on this short end extension. There's just barely enough room for the banjo. I have a 20-inch extension on order. It should be here in a few weeks. The problem is that is no longer the center. It's off at least 3/16 of an inch. I need a glue block. The center point for the worm screw hole was not the center point of the entire project. It was the center point of the recess I cut. So I carefully measured from the outside of the platter to the sides of this block, and when it was perfectly centered, I glued it in. I'm not square away this way exactly. Is it hitting in only one place? Yes. I don't have a dovetail in the glue block, so I can adjust the plane of rotation. Back that off 1/2 millimeter in that corner. Still off, same way. Inboard of that one. So I have overcorrected. That's less than 1 millimeter in there. I made 3 or 4 more corrections, 2 corrections before I gave up. As close as I'm going to get, and accept that. I spared you the tedium of my measurements and calculations. What I want is a deep recess for the hardware, as deep as I can go and still leave room to put in very small wood screws. The outer recess 650 will be deep enough to conceal most of the base. So in appearance, this will be just above the table with the base not in sight. Right now I'm using a 3/8 bowl gouge. Back to right-handed. Okay, I run out of nerve right there. That's as close to the chuck as I dare go. I try a 1/2-inch square end scraper. Came out better than I expected. Do not want to take that out of the chuck. Let me see if I can eyeball this. From above, I think I've got to come out another 1/4 inch. This is for the lower half recess, and I've got to go in a recess to accommodate the hardware. I've got 5/8 left. I can go in 3/8, and I'll just do what I can. Everything else will have to be chiseled out after I take this out of the chuck. Turn it upright. Five 5/16. That's as far as I'm going to go. And the screws, plus the metal that they go through, 3/8. Going to have to take the points off those screws. Take this off, and back to hammer and chisel. I'm not even bothering with denatured alcohol on this. Using the sharp edge, freshly sharpened chisel to go under the glue. My left hand is not in line with the chisel, by the way, in case you were waiting for blood. Oops, everything's cracking, that's not good. Oh, yes it is good. Now all I have to do is chisel this out without going through. How did I do this before? I put in the banjo, put a glove against it, and worked against it this way. That worked fine with a solid disc, but will it work with a high-rimmed dish? Got a stick of wood glued on the back of this so it doesn't fall off. Put the leather glove up here. Put the thumb down in there to hold it in place. Get some, a little bit under here. Now I can hammer against this without damaging wood over here. This is going to be slow and tedious. Now, which way is the grain running in this? If there's any slope to it, I don't want this to be diving in. So this will go on for quite a while. Well, disaster. Didn't realize till I turned this over just now that I've been breaking the rim, pounding it against the glove over there. So now I've got to figure out, do I have all the pieces? Okay, I have them all. It was a little like putting Humpty Dumpty back together again, but I got it done. Not perfectly smoothly. It would have to be sanded again. Go back to this without using that. Be slower, less damaging. It'll be much slower, more dangerous because I got my hand over there. Smaller chisel since I'm not hammering on it. Easier to push into the wood, I think. And it is. Okay, what I'm going to do here, use another one for measurements. The 8.5 inch circle, almost 8 5/8, but that's okay. I don't need to remove the island in the middle. Take that out. Well, I'm getting tired. I thought I could leave this island. I was using this as a test piece, but this has a big island in the middle. So this has to come down almost flat. I had to flatten the entire center because I don't have this flattened. I did end up sanding that down some, thinking I was hanging up on this, but it was hanging up on the knots, which are still standing pretty proud. I put this on here a couple of times, centered it, and turned the base like this while I watched for height variations here. At one high side, had to sand it down a couple times, and now I'm happy with the way it is. What I have to do, check for depth at the screw holes. How much room do I have? That appears to be still about 5/16. These screws protrude through the metal 3/8 of an inch. So going through my screws, found some really short ones. Question I'll have to ask is, will the heads not go through these holes? The answer is, yes they will. Okay, I got 4 tiny washers. They will seat there and poke through exactly 1/4 of an inch. I have 5/16. These will do. But because these washers will not fit through these holes, I have to enlarge those some. Problem is, I don't remember which one of these holes is the correct one. I drilled the first hole not quite in the right spot, so I drilled the second one. This one. It's not perfectly centered. And we got something rubbing somewhere. I believe I'm going to have to take this down just a little bit more. Realize now, of course, I could have taken this down a whole lot farther on the lathe. I could have come down to within a 1/16 of an inch of this circle. Everything would have been fine. But all I need this circle for is to center the hardware. Stick the tape to the screwdriver. Gotta quit buying cheap tape. Now, I should be able there's one. Can't tighten these very much. Very short and in very soft wood. Okay, this did not end up as centered as I would hope. This close. Now these feet, I think will show when this is sitting on the table. No, by golly. All that was left was lots and lots of hand sanding and 2 or 3 coats of urethane. The result looks nothing like the original sketch. I am happy with that. I'm really glad the base does not show when it's sitting on the table. I'm eager to use what I learned on this one to make more of them, but not until my 20-inch lathe extension arrives.